Oh my gosh, I reached 1,000 subscribers today and I'm just so stunned. I can't believe I've gotten this far. So, that being said, I will see you very, very soon. Except for now. Bye.
I started using YouTube when I was about 10 years old, and I created this very account when I was 14. So social media has always been part of my life in some way. On the other hand, I would consider myself to always have been a creative person and just always wanted some sort of outlet for me to be able to express myself. So naturally, these two things came hand in hand, and I found myself really drawn to the idea of using social media as a place to express my creativity, make some fun videos, but it also just felt so pure because the intent behind it was just being able to express myself creatively, create a sense of community, and that's what YouTube was always about for me growing up. I decided to stop making videos for a good few years, mostly because I was embarrassed of people in real life finding out about my content. And then it wasn't until January of 2022 that I decided to restart my journey and upload videos again on this channel. And I've since turned this into a lifestyle vlog type of channel, and I honestly just wanted to try it again and see what I could make out of this channel. And I found so much fun, especially as I restarted my channel, and just trying to figure out what my perspective was or what the vibe and aesthetic of my videos were going to be, because it was all brand new. And that was a spark, that creative spark that still reminds me of what it was like to start making videos in the first place. And for the following year and a half, I was doing videos almost every single week so that I was consistent, so that I can continue to learn new things, obsessive about watching videos on YouTube growth and tips and editing and everything. Like, you can go to my history and probably find hundreds of videos that I was obsessed with watching because I just wanted to know everything possible. And I felt like it was something so exciting about learning something new, even though I would look back now and probably feel like my first videos on this channel are a little bit cringy or whatever. For me, nothing can replace the fun and joy of simply just creating and doing it with no, I guess, like stakes on the table or any fixation on what the metrics are supposed to be, the numbers, all that type of stuff. Last summer, I also decided to quit my job without another job lined up for a variety of reasons. But in the time that I didn't have a job, I took YouTube very seriously, and it felt like I was really living a full-time creator life because I was able to do things full-time in terms of like how I was managing my time to really embody this mindset. And I did a video already just talking a lot about how things kind of shifted and my perspectives as I went through those few months. I have since been able to make this into a little bit of a side business. It no longer really felt like a hobby because it wasn't. I've talked about hobbies before, especially on my podcast. Shameless plug. If you haven't checked out my podcast, Nothing Really Matters, links in the description. But as I was saying on the pod, I've talked about hobbies, and the way that I view it is something that brings you joy, something that fills your cup, and in my perspective, not attached to any monetary value or any monetary gain, because the minute that kind of gets added, there's this other layer of pressure that inevitably, for me at least, affects the way that I view the work. Naturally, I think a lot of times there's a shift because there's money involved. So where my spark kind of started to dwindle was my channel has gone through different phases, as I've talked about, where I kind of blew up a little and then things kind of settled and then went up. And that's a whole thing when it comes to numbers and the algorithm that a lot of people that create content can probably relate to. It's so out of your control, but yet it can be so tied to our self-worth. And that turns into a vicious cycle of chasing after numbers that are completely out of our control at the end of the day. So just thinking back to the intent aspect of it, it's inevitable for a business to operate. There has to be consideration of how to be profitable. So I 100% acknowledge that, and it would be naive to think that you can solely focus on just the creative aspects without understanding how to operate as a business in order to be profitable. That said, I have started to feel like there's a difference between being strategic and being business oriented versus focusing on numbers only and letting that dictate the creative aspects or the work that I'm doing. And there's no right or wrong way to any of this, but the more pressure that I was giving myself to try to hit certain numbers or to see how I can continue growing, because it's never good enough for a business to just maintain. If you're only thinking about the numbers and being a business, businesses always want to grow year over year, month over month. I realized it's hard to fully embrace that way of thinking when it comes to creative work. It got to a point where I think my priorities kind of got misaligned. Instead of focusing on the actual content itself and trying to make that the best that it can be, and then looking at any metrics, views, any monetary aspects of it as the byproduct of content that I'm actually proud of and feel creatively fulfilled making. Whereas it's very easy when there's so much pressure, especially with numbers and YouTube Studio, as I've talked about before, and you guys have related a lot to the fact that it's so easy to just refresh YouTube Studio a million times a day. When you're seeing those numbers a million times a day, it's easy to get caught up and focus on that as the priority instead, because that's the metric that YouTube uses to show how good or bad a video is performing. It's not going to give a rating on how creative a video was or all these other things that I think are just as important when we think of why we do the things we do and why we create. So I had a good hard chat with myself at the beginning of this year, and one of the things that I wanted to focus on is creating content that I'm genuinely excited about, regardless of what I think the metrics might be behind it. And yes, there's going to be still those strategic aspects to keep in mind, because like I said, there's some form of balance that I'm hoping to eventually get to. But I think what will help me keep that spark alive as much as possible is to find that balance and be able to prioritize aspects that bring me joy and the parts of content creation that actually bring me creative fulfillment. Just letting myself try to learn new things and incorporate them in my videos and have fun with the process, like I did when I first started. When it comes to learning new skills to help with that creative spark, Skillshare is just the tool for that. I actually just finished a course all around different techniques to help spark creative, original ideas on Skillshare. And if you haven't heard of Skillshare before, Skillshare offers thousands of classes on different topics from design, business, and even creative productivity. What's awesome is that it's all self-paced, so if you are anything like me and you have a schedule that fluctuates a lot, you can fit it into whatever times work best for you. The courses are also really focused on practical skills that you can start applying in real world situations, such as some of the techniques that I've learned about so far when it comes to juxtaposition, lateral thinking, things that I never would have even considered learning about. What's awesome is now that I finished that course, I can actually move on to the next course in my learning path. Learning paths are hand-picked classes that are meant to be taken in a specific order that has been curated by Skillshare. Each course basically builds on one another to help reinforce lessons, and there's a range of different experience levels, so you can go from beginner to pro in no time. I'm currently on the creative productivity path and have been absolutely loving it, but like I said, Skillshare offers such a wide range of different topics and courses that there's sure to be something for everyone. And the best part is Skillshare is based on a community of real people that have real world experience to share their expertise on all these different topics. And I'm so excited to be sharing that the first 500 people to use the link in my description and sign up for Skillshare today will get a 1-month free trial. So whether you're looking to pick up a new skill or hone in on an existing one, click the link to get started today, and a huge thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. This leads me to the last thing I kind of want to touch on is around the creator economy in general and how much things have shifted when it comes to perceptions of what creators do and perceptions of how much creators can make and the untapped potential of, the creator lifestyle basically. And also how much numbers, views, and all that play such a big role in, this very romanticized and glorified version of what it means to be a creator. And in general, we have all seen how much the creator economy has grown. We've seen how perceptions of what a creator and influencer are have changed a lot. So there's a lot more legitimacy, I feel like, in terms of the potential that comes with doing YouTube or content and how much money people can make. All of that is very romanticized. I feel like there is more of a conversation around what it takes to get to that point, which I think is great. So with that all said, because there's a lot of attention on what someone's life could look like if they blow up on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, the association with these platforms can oftentimes be related to the income and the numbers. The same things that I personally felt were the things that were basically holding me back and creating this sense of lack of self-worth for a while. I am a huge fan of Heinz. If you haven't watched him before or listened to his podcast, I find his content very inspiring and refreshing. He talks a lot about the attention economy and the idea that the creator economy runs on attention, and that is the same attention that fuels the numbers, the metrics, those things that get to our head as people that create content. I think it becomes easier to focus on that as an indicator of how well we're doing at creating content or how well we're doing at building a community. But if trying to get more views, trying to get bigger numbers and more attention essentially is what's most important, then that becomes the intention behind the stuff that gets created. And I feel like that can be very unfulfilling is what I've personally experienced. And with everything that I've been thinking about and shared through this video, the biggest takeaway I think is trying to remember my why and focusing on that, focusing on why I create content in the first place, and taking a step back to think about what the intent is for the content that I do create. I don't know what the perfect answer is, and obviously people have done this for years and have also burnt out for some reasons that I think are similar to what I've talked about, but also some people that have been successful in finding what balance looks like. And in the grand scheme of things, I've only been posting consistently after restarting my channel for about 2 years now, so I feel like there's still a lot of time for me to figure some of these things out. But I'd love to hear from you guys if you make content yourself or have any passion projects that might be kind of similar, how you approach some of the things that I talked about. If you can relate, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you haven't yet, and to check out other videos from me on the screen, and I'll see you guys next time.
Until then, thank you all so much for sticking with me. Thank you all so much for helping me get this far. You guys are amazing, and I just love you all. So, thanks again. I've gotten to know quite a few of you, and you guys are some of the sweetest and nicest people that I've ever met, really, sort of, so thanks.